Pauline Ades-Mevel is the Europe Director at Reporters Without Borders. She joins me now on the set. Pauline, thanks so much for coming in. It seems like the situation for journalists around the world is only getting worse. Why is that?
The situation is getting worse and it's changing. I think there is a climate of fear that has been installed in the whole world, with different regions being impacted more than others. A hate of journalists, a climate of fear, which is really carried by political leaders criticizing the journalists, and the fact that investigative journalists are not able to lead their investigation properly around the world. The trend is general compared to the past year. There is a special spot on Europe, of course, which is really where the situation is decreasing, deteriorating, with a number of murders, but a climate of fear everywhere.
I saw that the greatest deterioration, or one of them, in press freedom was in the Americas. Which countries there are particularly worse off?
Of course, the United States. We had the 5 journalists killed at Capital Gazette in Maryland last year, but also in Venezuela, in Brazil, where journalists are targeted, in Mexico as well. So the American continent is really one of the worst right now in terms of deterioration because of the number of attacks. Venezuela is really a place where it is not safe anymore for journalists to carry their work.
And further north, you mentioned the United States. Is that all due to President Trump?
There was a climate, but of course, President Trump has also led a certain rhetoric, anti-media rhetoric, that is also spreading throughout the world, but is not good for journalists. They are not able to really cover some events in proper conditions.
What about the situation here in Europe, particularly in France?
Particularly in France, which is like gaining 1 point in our ranking compared to other countries which are falling. The situation is not good for a certain number of problems, but of course the Yellow Jacket crisis, with journalists being on the one hand targeted by the Yellow Jacket movement, but also on the other hand by the police forces while covering the demonstration for the past 5 months, has been tremendous, really enormous in the past months. It is really unseen. Journalists have been insulted. They have been also attacked. Some have been threatened with rape, and sometimes then also attacked by the police forces.
Pauline, just to wrap up on a more positive note, Norway is the best country for press freedom. What lessons can be learned from Norway, from the other top countries that perhaps other countries around the world should be putting into place?
Norway has been the first country for 3 years, and it's true that in terms of independence, the country is doing well. There are no pressure. The situation in general is good because there is a pluralism in the country in terms of press. But we see some problems even in the top-ranking countries like Sweden, with cyber harassment growing year after year, or in the Netherlands, 2 journalists being under police protection 24 hours a day, because they investigate the criminal networks.
Pauline, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us.